Good day. Today we are chatting to Nadine Hoffmann. Nadine, I am so excited about this episode. I've really been looking forward to this. I think for a start, could you perhaps just tell our audience who you are, what your role is, and then we'll jump into the questions.
Thanks, Louise, for having me. I'm totally excited where this exchange will lead us to, and I'm happy also to give a short intro of myself. As you rightly said, Nadine Hoffmann. I'm a global AI product manager with SAP. And if you might be interested what my past journey has been, let me give a quick summary of that one. So I'm more than 20 years already with SAP, but originally I'm a conservative banking lady joining SAP, but what always led me through my whole career and whole working journey was really the topic of new technology and innovative elaboration of technology, because I'm coming from the payment space and we all know how we did payments like 25 years ago and how we do with watches and iPhones or phones in general, our payments today. And that always was for me a key role. I'm not a developer, I'm a SAP product manager. I've always been close to partners, customers, stakeholders in a different means, being the translator of the business requests and the business challenges we have, bringing that together and trying to understand the technology on the other side, and especially what latest and greatest technology can bring to us and really help us, not just the technology business side of the house, but also in a private aspect, what it can do for myself, what it can do, how it can evolve. And that is energizing me. So to see how
Mhm.
things are evolving, bringing people together. And this is also what I do at SAP. So I've been quite some time already with the business AI topic within SAP for the last roughly 5 to 6 years now, bringing together our stakeholders internally and externally, our partners, and especially our customers, and trying to convert whatever the needed, whatever the business challenge is, to fit for purpose where we can infuse AI, how we can use AI in a secure and compliant manner, and where we can really bring business value, not only into our solutions, because yes, we need to earn money, but especially to our customers.
And that's a very interesting perspective because I'm thinking now that it's not only in the solutioning, but even in the requirements gathering itself and the understanding of the problems, where I think it can play a very exciting and very useful role. So, Nadine, the role of product manager, you've been at this for some time now. And it obviously has evolved, not just with the technology, but also with just general business maturity and the way we evolve as humans. Can you tell us a bit about how you see how this role has changed over time, and maybe just explore a bit about on that?
Happy to do, because as you rightly said, it's like next to the technology, that's my second favor, where I see, and I was so glad to go with the evolvement, to see how the changes were happening. And I think what is very important is to understand the majority of tasks, bringing value, bringing business value, solving business challenges, no matter of which product you're looking at, if it's a car nowadays, if it's a mobile device, or if it's software. Luckily, and that's the good thing, it stayed the same. We want to deliver something which helps you. We want to bring something to the market which people want to buy. And so a company who does that can earn money, and the product manager who then earns or owns the product can say, yes, I've done the right thing. I've brought it to the market. It's a success. Everybody is wanting it, but also in some way needing it to fulfill certain needs. Yeah. And those needs can vary from A to Z. This has not changed. So this is still the same. What is a bit more tricky is, due to more and more new technologies coming into the game and the very fast evolvement nowadays of those kind of technologies, this goal of fulfilling a business need is sometimes neglected with regards to, or replaced by, following a sort of hype. You could see that quite a lot in the beginning of AI as well. You could see that, especially, which is my second, let's say, top technology favor in the blockchain or in the distributed ledger technology, as we call it, times. And you can also watch hype cycles. Yeah, there are a lot of analyst reports out there where you can look at and see where the technology is. And especially the bigger companies, they quite often have the push and the need to position this technology to show that they're up there, that they are following the market and technology trends. And by that, sometimes the real business need and value to bring that to the customers
Mm.
and to the end users is slightly forgotten. So that's the tricky bit of it. And you might want to say this is the bad aspect of the evolvement of product management.
Mm.
Now, the
It's,
third thing, and more important for me, is the complexity. Because
yeah.
what our key role nowadays is you have to be an expert in your business knowledge. At the same time, due to the vast evolvement of technology, you have to have a baseline understanding what is the capability of that technology bringing to the table and how would I use it in the best ways for my purpose, not just putting it there due to marketing reasons. And
Yeah.
that makes it complex for us product managers because we need to be learning
Mm.
that technology, not being myself a developer, for example, or a data
Yeah.
scientist, but you need to have the understanding and you have to transport and translate that understanding into the business scenario. And that makes it very complex. And I think that's the key
Mm.
aspect which changed the product management life nowadays.
And I guess that's a very interesting perspective because I was thinking as you were talking about the life of a product manager with a lot of projects moving to a more agile methodology, and what I've certainly seen is more business ownership as well in terms of product. So I've got an idea to improve a process. I want to use the cool stuff. I'm going to come to someone who can help me, but I ultimately own the product. But you're right in that even for a product manager, it's tricky to understand all the bits and bobs and ins and outs. And
Yeah.
for a business person who's not necessarily that close to the technology to now also get a grasp on that, I don't know if we would see the value as fast as we were expecting. But AI is supposed to make everything easy and put everything on autopilot. Why is it not easy?
Because I would wish for it being easy, but you just mentioned it, right? It is the combination of all of it. And some sometimes might call me crazy because I start comparing this complexity aspect with like movie scenes. I'm not sure everybody or most of us might know Harry Potter.
Oh,
And
yes.
what I always tend to say is we moved from a like two-dimensional, maximum three-dimensional aspects we looked after for our evolvement, for our production of a product.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's multidimensional with the
Mm.
technology, with the different markets, with the different aspects of how do we position value. And then finally, not to forget about real business value delivery to the market and making clear this is what you get and this is why you have to pay something for it. This is like a Quidditch game. And for
Mm.
me, this making it quite easy to understand with flying through the air, knowing where the snitch is, but still throwing the ball through these little circles in the air and having to navigate your broom. Not easy at all. And
And the sketch has a brain of its own.
yes, and you could compare that again. I don't want to say that AI has a brain of its own, but
Yeah.
I would say there are different aspects, especially within now the latest evolvement of AI, which is so-called generative AI in the market, with all these large language models, with the capability of natural language interaction with a tool, with a chatbot, with a digital assistant. And we've all been there and heard it. And I'm pretty sure you touched upon that in some of the former podcasts already with all these, oh, this is a black box. I'm fearing that. How do I
Mm.
deal with it in a trustful way, in an explainable way, as much as these technologies are explainable, in a reliable manner that it really brings me value, that I can trust in the output to my business need, and really say also with regards to data compliance, my data is safe. I'm not sharing it with everybody. So all these kind of, and I've just pinpointed it, data security, ethical aspects are then again another complexity which you could compare with the own life of a broom, which you have to steer.
Yes, absolutely. Nadine, how do you think AI plays a role in really changing the way we do things? Because we've seen many of these technologies, and I mean, you've mentioned a few of them that have that kind of they're a big hype, and then they're a bit slow to be adopted, and then we don't hear of them again, and they go on the back burner, and then the next thing you suddenly hear, oh, there's now 100 different developments running on these things. They've not gone away. But how do you think, and why I'm asking this is, I was watching an interview that they did with Sam Altman the other night, and they were asking him the question. It was a talk at Stanford about what he thinks the near future is going to look like for people. And his response was, I'm going to give you an answer now that would have been different 10 years ago. But for now, I don't think people's lives are going to change dramatically. They're just going to have more tools to do their stuff with. What is your view of how AI could potentially change the way we do things or not?
I personally would agree with him. There might be some really new things upcoming, innovative, new creative minds. That's always happening. But
Mm,
just limiting it or looking at the AI and how we live today, I agree with him. Our life will be much easier. We will have the tools, and I see it today already. If you think about on the social side of the house, inclusiveness, these new tools, these possibility to talk to a system in my natural language, which without having, like we did in the past, we had to code each single line of interaction. Was it in written or was it verbally? You needed to really define how you interact and what the answer is you get
yeah.
with these new large language models. I'm not want to say I can talk like my mouth is born, but close to it, so I can at least phrase it like I want, like it's understandable for me, and I can be rest assured to a certain limit and level the system will understand me. And be it for people who are not willingly and possible, so I'm not just talking about people who are have disabilities or so, but also for workers somewhere at the production line. They have gloves, don't want to take off gloves, type something in somewhere. If they can do that with their voice,
Mm,
chatting, interacting with their system directly, and they know they can guide through the system. They get support to be guided through the right transaction, as we call it. No matter if you think about working life or private life,
mm,
and all the apps you will have where you can do that, and that will increasingly come
yeah.
where you walk somewhere and say, I need a connection. Think about booking a train trip, taking out the app, and then, sorry to say that, for people like me at least, then taking glasses on, taking glasses off. How far do I hold the camera, the mobile phone away to really see it, to read it, to type it in, to get the right information? Then, oh my God, I realize I'm getting older, asking my 16-year-old, how do I navigate in that app? If I could do that with a chatbot, even if I have to type it in, that's fine for me. I don't need always the voice, but getting that support, being guided through applications, no matter if in private life or in business life, doesn't matter. This is easing my life. This is making it so simple for everybody to focus on your key capabilities of your role.
Yeah.
And that's speeding up things where we, from a personal perspective, might need to be careful so that we're not speeding, but also like me, talking quite quickly. I'm sorry for that.
No, it's good. I can listen fast.
But that's exactly the point, right? At making your life easier. And therefore, I think with that, automatically some, we might in 5 years call it totally new, innovative things might come up. But for the time being, I would agree to say for the next few years, it's mainly optimizing, bringing efficiency, making our life easier, no matter where you look at. And that
Yeah.
for me brings also inclusiveness in all
Mhm.
means, because it's easier as soon as you have access to the technology, you can interact with such apps, software, technology much easier. And there, the burden is lowered quite a lot.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I think especially with even connectivity becoming more pervasive, access to devices in areas that traditionally maybe didn't have the smart devices, we might see an uptake just because the infrastructure is now also there. I think in terms of inclusiveness, just the access to tools, to information, to specialist skills,
Yeah.
that is massive. What are your thoughts, and what learnings could you possibly share to help people foster these innovations? So for them to really get on top of them and embrace them. I think that is often the adoption is where it fails.
It's tricky. I think what we all need, and I've learned that already some years ago when I was looking into the blockchain topic and driving that from a, again, personal favor because I like the technology. I wanted to learn about what it can do for myself and how I can tackle it and use it as well as for business life. I think it's of utmost importance that you stay open-minded and that we all might follow a mindset shift with regards to, oh, this is what we've done so long, never change a running system. I agree in some means to say we need to be careful, especially if we use these new technologies, as we call it, at the heart of your system landscape. One example for me would be payments for a bank is the heart. It's one of the parts of the
Yes.
heart. If you change and do a surgery at the heart, need to be very sensible.
Yeah. Good
And I
analogy.
think, yes, but on the other hand, you shouldn't be held back by that fact. So being a typical German, I need to admit, I tend to always have in back of my head like data protection,
Yes.
ethical compliance,
Governance.
careful, careful, black box explainability. And I
Yeah.
can fully understand everybody who's thinking in the same direction. But please don't prevent yourself to look into the technology,
Yeah.
to use it in a mean where it's safe. One example for SAP customers, partners, and our internal colleagues, we're all using the same platform where you have the chance to try large language models out, where you can play around in a secure environment. There are guardrails to that, how you do that. And I think that's important that you understand the boundary conditions, how you should apply such a technology, what is okay to do in the beginning, where you should be careful,
Yeah.
e.g., private data sharing, business data sharing, things like that, data protection. But find your playground and try it out and stay eager and curious and be awake to learn about it. Ask
Mm.
questions and then get in touch with these things, learn about, oh, what can it do? And perhaps also what not. And then start thinking about it. If it can do A and B, what does it mean for me? Does it mean for my business? And then there are a lot of, you spoke about agility in the beginning. There are a lot of tools, and I'm really a fan of design thinking, for example, where you have options to look at it, to look at the needs, and to also look at the business value you want to deliver, and then go in the ideation mode. Be creative, be crazy. And then
Yeah.
when you have the crazy ideas on your table, then comes perhaps the reality check to say, okay, and now what is my minimal viable scope? What is reality? What can I start trying out to learn? And
Yeah.
we are learning every day. So it's same for me. We have so many customer exchange, so many partner exchange and discussions. This is crazy like hell sometimes what you learn on a day to say, okay, something else learned. And you might want to say some of us are getting older and older, but we're still continuously learning and continuously I have to also adapt myself and say, okay, I have been a conservative banking woman. I'm always attached to new technology, so I'm perhaps more trained to be in these quick evolvement of technology and boundary conditions. But I'm eager to learn more, and I think staying curious is really the utmost important to not be too afraid.
Yeah.
Be
I think that
realistic, take care, but start it. Just go for it.
I think that's very valuable information. And I do think with the adoption, the fun side of me thinks back to the old days when you had these developers who had the Easter eggs, and it was so much fun when there was a new version of a piece of software to find those Easter eggs where you pressed a certain combination of keys and then suddenly there was a space invasion on your screen. So I'm wondering if the same's not perhaps going to happen with things like prompts. Um,
We are already, so I can share with you, we have our so-called experience garage, a
yeah.
team where we have to make it easy and interactive to learn things. And
Mm,
they're doing hackathons and other stuff where quite often those kind of challenges are asked to be
nice.
included in the
Yeah.
things to make it fun to collaborate. And then there is the other side of the house where you can see, because you talked about adoption and where we can see it really coming to life A major impactful scenario for me, for example, was the combination of seeing that this technology really can help, can do something positive, not just for business reasons, but for the
Yeah.
people. Because we have technology within our company, it's called document information extraction, which is something where you can extract information out of a document. And when you
Mm.
consider to fill out documents for governmental organizations to get some funding, which
Yeah.
was a key need, especially if we're looking past into the COVID times. We worked
Mm.
together with the city of Hamburg, for example, to ease that process. So to give out COVID funds to the people in need. And we were able with this AI technology, and that was not yet that time generative AI, because large language models was in the beginning there no topic. It was not probably even, were all not aware of what's coming next. But it was easy to extract information, and they were speeding up the process to get out these funding to the people in need. They implemented the platform within, I think, roughly 6 weeks, and it was
Wow.
up and running last year already. And then they had an increase, an efficiency increase by 20% just running that. And I'm not saying that just to
Oh.
pitch, hey, we have great tools. I just want to make sure there was for me, a social aspect to it.
Mm.
Help the people in need, get the money out to them with perhaps minimizing in an initial step the bureaucracy and the manual handling with these kind of technologies. Nowadays, they have comparable situations with other funding using already large language models, which even speeds up the process more. And this
Mm.
is things where I think this is the real cool stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of all the opportunities that there are. And I think the fun thing is, as you alluded to, the openness of it and the accessibility of it, is that people can now solve problems which might have been harder for them to solve in the past because they've now got the tools at their fingertips. It's just about getting skilled up and comfortable with those tools. So we've reverted to Gen AI here and there, but maybe let's come back to that subject. There's a big hype about Gen AI. Can you maybe, in a muggle friendly way, explain Gen AI and how it differs from AI?
Okay, I try my best. Not being a witch, but okay. Muggle myself through it. In easy sense, I would say, and I touched upon that slightly already in the beginning, if you think, for example, about a chatbot and an interaction with a chatbot where you write it, your questions in, and that has been there for quite some times already, and then you got an answer, I don't know, because your post delivery was delayed or your train was not coming and you had a question, and they all on these apps offered chatbots.
Yeah. So that
These
was
in
sorry to interrupt you. That was
Yeah,
also you could have a chatbot that you could also consume some public services. So you could also ask it what's the weather in San Francisco, and if it had the API to the or the web services linked to the weather services, then it could give you that answer. And if you had it in an environment where you had specific content, you could train it. So you could
yeah.
say, if someone asks this question, or these questions, then these are the possible answers.
Exactly. And if you would do that nowadays, the flexibility is much broader because
Okay.
nowadays, so former days, it was a single way. As you rightly said, one question, getting the right information if you have a connection to the information source, or if you have programmed the answer on a database or something, that was the answer you were getting back. And there was a
Yeah.
fix to it. And quite often the reply was, I do not understand. Can't give you an answer. Please contact whoever you want to contact on our call center. And then you were standing there and saying, yeah, great, nice try. It was already in some cases helpful, but not to the extent a human being, a muggle, would want to have it. Because we
Exactly.
as a muggle would say, but I need the information. I need the link to the information. I want to see which next step I should take, or I even want to have a recommendation. Like I
Yeah.
would be talking in a train station to a service person who would guide me through and lend a helping hand, and would even in the end find somebody, if I get older and older, who would lend me the helping hand physically to bring me to the right train track if
Yeah.
needed. And this
Yeah.
is exactly the change you have today because It's multidimensional. You can combine the task. And this is just an example of a digital assistant where you can have navigational information. You get sources of information summarized with the correct links. And from SAP perspective, we can do that and combine quite soon external sources as well as internal sources. We have the possibility still also, and that was lately just a question where I was smiling about, to ask our digital assistant about weather and maybe also do some chit chat about football. So there might be the possibilities. And then you can go back to business again, and it will help you to summarize SAP help documentation. It will give you the link to the respective help documentation. It will perhaps recommend, depending on your question, which transaction you should do next. And he might even prep that transaction if you need to fill out something, if you want to change something in the backend system, you do an entry. Best example would be future ways. You get an advice on our travel system Concur, which train, which flight to take to be there on time to fulfill your meeting needs, which combination of flights might be the best one, etc. So it's really multidimensional, interactive, and I think that's the majority of changing between, as some might call it, classical AI, where it's really one task driven, to multitasking driven of generative AI, which we have today.
So thanks for that. It really is exciting because I think the world of opportunities and possibilities are just opening. If in a business environment you can interact with the tools in a human way, and I'm even thinking of the way that things like month-end processes can be sped up, queries that you have, call centers. I
Yes.
think the use cases are massive. But speaking of use cases, I mean, we've got Sapphire running at the moment, and I've been jumping in and out of some of the virtual sessions. Luckily, the time zone helps for the virtual ones because they're all at night. But is there perhaps something of the latest and greatest that's been announced or shared at Sapphire that we can share with the listeners?
I would like for that, especially thinking about our listeners now, I would pull in our backyard super expert, Andre, who is represented in our region also. And Andre, perhaps you can give us some insights of the most important announcements or key topics of Sapphire, especially for the region. And then I'm happy to take it up further again to the more generic stuff.
Thank
I
you.
Hey, Louise. Hey, Nadine. Hey, really insightful discussion today. And what I've been most excited about is really listening to the conversation about not so much the technical side, but what does it really mean to the users? And I think that's what a lot of, especially people in the SAP ecosystem, are trying to understand. What is it actually going to mean for me, right? Because today I'm using a lot of screens and I'm going between this screen and this screen. Help break that down for me in terms of what does that mean for me in my job. Like Louise, I've been listening to a lot of the stuff in and around what's happening at Sapphire. And one of the things I was really keen to ask you, Nadine, is lots of talks around collaboration with other partners that we have. And as an example, in our AI assistant with Microsoft and with their Copilot and our Joule. And what you guys have been talking about today in terms of this journey of a conversation, right? Have the potential there for having both of those things to work collaboratively together, I think would make a lot of sense for our users who are sitting in front of a screen that says, maybe if both of those things are combined, then maybe, Nadine,
Yeah.
maybe in the not too distant future, is there a way that those users are going to be able to use those tools and really outperform other users who are still sitting on screens and typing versus someone who's sitting there actually having a conversation with my application? So I'd be really interested to hear back from you, Nadine. Do you see that in the future in some industries where people are literally going to walk around and be talking to the SAP Microsoft systems and not having to be typing on them?
I'm pretty sure that will come in the first step. I'm sure we will do it still by typing. And I think it's also in the beginning already a great advantage with the announcement that we had now to really further integrate, stronger collaborate with Microsoft Copilot to really have it from Microsoft 360, jumping from an email you're writing where you see, okay, I need some information. You can jump right into an SAP application, and they're using Joule, our digital assistant within the business frameworks, which can also jump through different applications because Joule is the one, let's say, stop shop digital assistant for SAP, and then collect information in the needs for the user and transport that back into the Copilot 360 application and use it there directly in a summary, in the email, in whatnot you can do there, and then send it off to your customers. So having this vision where it should end up, hopefully, and then extending that vision to bring it really to verbal communication, and that might be also depending on the mobile device you will be using. So there might be the need of the one or the other negotiation to bring then also the voice to text capability in that flow directly. But that's definitely a vision we are looking at. And with the stronger Copilot collaboration we have now, this is one step in the row in the journey.
So, Andre, it's actually, I'm glad that you brought that into the discussion because I literally had an experience this week where I was talking to someone from Microsoft about Copilot and literally talking about, but how nice will it be when, whether I'm sitting in email and needing an SAP query or whether I'm sitting in SAP wanting to email someone, if those AI tools can just play nice with each other. So, from a user perspective, it's seamless. And I kid you not, while we're having the discussion, I get a notification on my phone because that's literally when the announcement came of the closer collaboration between Joule and Copilot. It was uncanny, but yes, very.
You made it miraculously happen, Louise. Your wish came true. No, honestly, I really think this is, and we started that before, right? So Sapphire, you all know, is then when we've reached a certain level, that's the announcement, and then we will deliver upon these announcements on TechEd on next year's Sapphire. So I'm really eager to see what we will demo next year at Sapphire already. Perhaps it will already be voice to text. I'm not sure. This is just my personal wish for. Let's see how we can make that bring to life in that regard.
All right, thanks for bringing me into the conversation. And yeah, I'm looking forward to what that actually means and represents in terms of real value for the users who I think, Louise, like you say, they're really looking for that collaboration of those tools to do those jobs end to end because it just makes their lives easier.
No, for sure. Thanks, Andre. Thanks for popping in on short notice.
We mentioned now the Microsoft announcement, right? There are many others, and you can follow all of them in our SAP News in social media. Let me underline about the massive amount of announcement we not only did for our solutions themselves, which then you can check on the solution areas, but what I think was also visible and clear is that there is a lot of partner collaboration. And what is,
Yes.
I think, a very good approach in my perspective is we are not reinventing the wheel. We are
Yes.
bringing together what's already there, and the Copilot Joule combination is just one out of many examples. We had the NVIDIA announcement for the implementation guide and assistant we are coming up with. We have large language model offerings where we say, and we had these, me being a conservative German person, these compliance topic in the beginning. That's
Yes.
exactly why we embed more and more large language models. See it that we are collaborating now closer with Meta, that we had the Mistral AI announcements, just to name two of them. For us, it's important our customers know the SAP infrastructure and that we have so-called product standards where we are compliant to, that we take care of legal, ethical compliance topics. And that's why we embed these large language models so that the customers don't have to interact with a multitude of vendors out there, but that they have one single entry point with a clear SAP standard surrounding set to be comfortable, to have an really at that point easy integration into their SAP landscape, and to also surround all of our applications where we embed the same technology. So we are using the same machinery internally to deliver out of the box capabilities as yet another feature in a solution like SuccessFactors Concur. We had some touch points here already, and giving our customers and partners the possibility to develop something themselves if it's not covered within SAP, but have the same integration pattern, the same responsible, reliable, relevant pattern because it's based on their SAP data where they have direct access. It's directly bringing business value, and that's very close to my heart. It's legally compliant, it's ethical compliant, and that is for me quite important nowadays.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think it's interesting how interrelated these things are, because you can only really govern from an ethical perspective if you have control over those large language models. So that then talks to how you set up your infrastructure and the freedom that you give or don't give your customers to go and put their own stuff on top of it, where they can safely play and what those guardrails are, because you could obviously also use the AI tools to maintain those guardrails. So it can be a self-governing thing over and above the human element of ethics boards and the like. Nadine, so something else is the context-specific large language models that are being trained, because we hear a lot about that. But if you were to explain, again in a muggle friendly way, but why is it that one would need different types of training or different types of large language models for different type of scenarios? Can't you just have one AI that knows and does it all?
I would love to have just one and does it all. I'm not a data scientist, to be very frank and open here, and I'm sure our experts and data scientists can explain that much better than me. My muggle-friendly understanding would be they are trained in a multitude of ways. They're looking at different aspects of speed,
Mhm.
performance, volume of information, of complexity of the request you have. And
Okay.
therefore, it's quite often reliable. So, how is the input given based on which database, how
Mm.
speedy they are in their reply? And this is something where we really test it out. You need to check and test and see what is fitting your purposes. Where
Mm.
is it available? It's also a regional question in some scenarios, right? Where
Ah,
it's applicable, where can I use it? We had the example of City of Hamburg where we have a clear EU access only behind it because it's a governmental related thing. There are a multitude of reasons, like in any other software, where you say, I compare it, I do a check, I do a performance test, I do a capability test to figure out what is fit for purpose. And again, what is important here is also not all the time do I need a large language model. If I really
mm.
have a clear prediction case in place, it
Yeah.
might be, as said, some phrase it classical, historical, however you want to name it, but it's a single task approach. Why would
Yeah.
I choose for an LLM, which might be much more complex also to integrate, rather than taking the effort to train a dedicated model because it's much more fine granular than in the output in the end, perhaps because of that use case. And I'm not saying that the
Mm.
opposite is happening with large language models, but you need to compare to fit for purpose. And I think that's the most important aspect here. And in the end, I would see it also growing together. So there will be also, we had the complexity of processes we link to each other. There will be still if when clauses to speak in developer wording. There will be some single task machine learning models being implemented, and there will be tasks where you clearly say this has to be covered by a large language model. And the combination of all then makes it a fit for purpose and happy end user.
Okay. Yeah, we want happy end user for sure. Thanks for that. That actually makes a lot of sense. Nadine, you're also part of the AI user group from the German SAP user group. Can you share some updates? What do you guys? That sounds like a very cool user group to be in. What's happening there?
I would love to be a part of the African user group as well. Unfortunately, there are regional and connectivity issues behind. So, whenever you would like to have me on a digital way included there, I'm happy to join. I think,
Okay.
in general, the user group exchange is something very important, and we talked about learning and getting insights, and we are all learning together, and that is exactly the community where I think it's important that we learn together, that we better understand where's the current pain point of our customers
Yeah.
with regards to also our solutions, and then to exchange where are they, what have they learned already with regards to AI capabilities, where do they want to infuse that into their solutions, where's their priority, because you
Mm.
need to start somewhere. As I said, you can't rescue the world at once. You need to do it step by step, at least the business world. So
Yeah.
therefore, that's an important exchange, I would say. And I'm glad to be part of the German user group now to help fostering exactly that exchange. So it's not just me running the show, it's rather me facilitating that we can bring the right experts into that user group activity. We just have, I think today or next week, I'm not sure, I would need to check my calendar, but I think it's today, have an exchange on the architecture. So there is a close collaboration also with partners where we will co-present our advice, our initial structure, how we do in architecture, how we integrate AI capabilities into the SAP world, and a lot of learning together, get the right questions back, and then we might have some homework to do when we are getting back out of that meeting. And then in the upcoming weeks, we will definitely, and I think that's the most important part of it, look at use cases. So we had an interview, the DSAG organization had interviewed their customers, their participants, to get a priority list of what are the top 4 use case topics we are going to look at. And so that's what we are now going to do. We will look into chat interaction. So for us, it's Joule. For others, they name it differently, but they're having a digital assistant. We will look at a use case. We will check out what is the need, what can we cover today, and where should we focus going on adding features and functionalities in the future. The second topic will be looking at ticket handling, for example. We had call centers and all these interactions, and that will be combined with having an SAP issue. How can we bring these processes closer together using AI capabilities, making life of the SAP staff as well as the customer staff easier to collaborate? Another topic will be looking at data and documentation. So this might be also coming up as a combination of digital assistant, but also how to integrate not only SAP documentation and information, but also customer specifics information, and then to create an output towards the customers and more use case topics to follow. So I think that's the cool part of it. And wherever possible, as I can't be the expert on all deep dive topics, we will collaborate. We will bring in our really product managers, consulting experts to go into the exchange with those customers. And hopefully, after some sessions, we will have kind of the initial blueprints where we say, okay, this is one example how you could start it to make it also easier for others to start their journey, to get back to the beginning of our exchange, right? How can I start? We want to ease the life for the user group participants to get an idea how these setups could look like, what are the small steps they can do to start with that technology, and then let it evolve together with us.
I think that's wonderful. And I think the user group is definitely a very helpful forum for that because, like we said, people need to get stuck in, be open, start playing around with it. But if you think about it, SAP customers have very similar problems to solve. Some cases are unique, but many business cases or many use cases would be common across different industries, different types of customers, and they would be able to be solved much quicker if we've got that collaboration and that exchange and those conversations are going. So it's a very exciting space. It definitely is an exciting space for someone who wants to jump on board.
Yeah, for sure. And I forgot about perhaps for some of our audience, also the most important use case we will be looking at. So some might say, yes, it's nice. We have SAP solutions. They embed AI already. So covered standard processes, and we grow together with our customers, evolve features and functions. But what if I want to create something myself because it's very specific? It's just for my needs. So it has been also already announced at Hackathons. We had some update announcements now at Sapphire, but we will be deep diving into how to build code with AI. This is for sure a key topic. What capabilities do we have? What can we do to really connect it also to the SAP data, where we are currently working on creating an SAP foundation model to bring that together again also into the LLM context, what you said. Why not one for everything? Because there are boundaries. So now we are looking into really building one which is looking at structured and tabular data explicitly of the SAP data to bring that. And I think that use case will be very energizing for me, at least, to see what the customers want to build and what they need for that from a developer focus. So it's less the end user in that case. It's more the developers where we want to support as well to make their life easier. So not just the business users.
No, it's very exciting. And that actually brings me to another thought, and it's a recurring topic that seems to come up, and that is the one around skills. How do you see the skills requirements playing out? Because it feels like with a lot of these tools, it feels like they lend themselves towards probably youngsters entering the market being able to get going quicker because they possibly need less of the business experience as long as they've got someone there who can share the context. And then, of course, the more experienced folk who are open to exploring these things, I think it's going to get tricky for those who are so set in their ways that they're not wanting to explore. But how do you see this skills puzzle playing out?
I think for me, there are two aspects to it. One question you slightly addressed in, or both you slightly addressed in your question. It's on the one hand side, you still need to have the experts who know how to, for example, develop, just coming from this
Yes.
build code thing, because you need the human in the loop to review what the system is delivering. So I think if the youngsters are now standing there, cool, I don't need business information at all any longer because the system knows it all for me, I would say no, not
Yeah.
100%. It's the question about trustfulness. It's about ethical compliance, reliability. We set boundary conditions to fulfill it as much as possible, but there are limits to it. So you need to have the human in the loop, and that's important to me as well, with a certain skill set to review what is delivered through the system. And for that, you need still to learn how to code, where to look after, how to secure that there's a high quality, and then perhaps give feedback to the automated system so that the system can also learn from you. And if we would stop that learning, we would perhaps in
Mm.
some time run out of that skill set if the
Yeah.
people who trained it and learned it in the past are no longer participating in the ecosystem. That's one
Mm.
aspect. The other aspect, which is a totally cool, fascinating thing for me, everybody can learn it. There are so
Yeah.
many learnings out there. If you're unsure what you should do as a youngster, AI will not go away. So you should
Yeah.
at least, no matter in which area you're looking at, and it doesn't have to be a technology area you're looking at, but you should skill yourself to get a baseline understanding about what AI can do, what it not, where we are nowadays. And it brings a great possibility also within the learnings. So the fun fact is that AI is being used to create learning material, which is much more
Yeah.
fun perhaps than somebody sitting there writing it down. You
Yeah.
can interact with the large language models. You can try it out to see how it's working.
Yeah.
And that makes it important on the one hand side and fascinating on the other side because it's a new area. And I've talked about inclusiveness in the beginning, and that's also dear to my heart. Diversity, inclusiveness. This is again a chance for everybody, no matter where you are, as long as you have access to a computer, start learning it. It gives you a new chance to jump onto topics, to jump into jobs, because we are all learning now.
Yeah.
And that's a
It's a
great chance, I would say, where SAP is also investing in learning scenarios. We're
yeah.
offering free of charge learnings online there. We can link them later also.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of opportunities out there, no matter which age you are, where you're living, as long as you have access to a computer, that's your chance now to jump on it and really learn it.
That is awesome. And your thanks. I think we should link to put some of those links in the show notes. So maybe some of those Sapphire announcements or news reports and
Yes.
the learning content where to find it. But you also made me think of something else in that we also have a retiring workforce who needs to keep going much longer than before. So there might also be opportunity for
Yes.
those who've run the businesses for years to bring that knowledge back in a way that reaches many more people than they would have reached before because
Yes.
they can actually put that experience back into the tool set, which is very powerful.
Yes. And I think that's, yeah, it's a great chance for all of us to
Yeah.
participate and to exchange and learn from each other and learn together.
Yeah, definitely. Nadine, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. I'm really looking forward to many more conversations and seeing where this all goes. It's a very exciting time and a very exciting space. But thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and sharing some of your insights. and showing us where the fun lies in all of this as well.
Happy and very thankful that you invited me to this round, and hopefully glad for the audience we didn't just do the one-on-one SAP product sharing, but looked a bit behind the scenes. Perhaps you envisioned a bit of my passion, why I'm so eager to work in that space. And if anybody is interested about what we are doing there, jump on the SAP page. There's a lot of the announcements, a lot of the solutions where we embed AI, and also where you can try it out. That will be a second podcast we would need to do.
Definitely, I'm looking forward to that. Thanks, Nadine. Take care.
Thanks. Thanks, Louise.